my first time using the app and dating after like 3-4 years. I matched with a Chinese guy. He seemed nice, and his pictures made him seem very handsome. We talked for about a week, pretty consistently, and I liked him a lot from text. When he asked me to meet up with him, I said of course. We met, and he was nothing like his pictures. I later found out that he used Godfrey Gao's photos, and not his own. He said he used the pictures because people thought he was too ugly. I should have left then, but I didn't, and we talked. He asked if I wanted to go for a walk at a park down the road, and I said sure. I didn't see the harm in it. I told you, I'm really naive. I got into this guy's car, and off we went, to another city, about 25-30 minutes from the coffee shop we had been at. He says he comes here all the time. There's a nice trail, so I'm like, okay, we can take a walk and talk. But he parks in a random area and started kissing me. Then he started groping me. I was honestly terrified. He wanted me to get into the back seat. And when I said no, he dragged me out of the car and made me get into the back seat. I was freaking out, but it was like I was frozen. He locked the doors when he got in, and I was trying to push him away and keep him off of me, but he wouldn't stop. I kept saying no, but, and I'll never forget these words, he kept saying, I've never slept with a white girl. He assaulted me, but I was lucky enough to fight him off and force the door open. I reached into the window of the front seat, grabbed my purse, and took off down the little road, and a car was there, a high school girl. I probably scared her to death, but I ran to her and begged her to act like we knew each other, so the guy didn't drag me back. She called 911 and told me to get into her car, so I did, and she locked the doors for me. The guy came looking for me. My sweater was still in his car, and he was screaming for me. But the girl said we were best friends, so she'd take me home. The police came and took me for a statement. I had to take pictures of the scratches and bites he left on me, and the female cop helped me fix my clothes. I never told anyone. I'd just broken up with my boyfriend of 3 years because I found him in bed with my best friend since diapers. I guess I wanted to feel something. Be attractive to someone. But I learned my lesson, and now I make people send pics to me for proof they match their photos. Be careful, please. I had a Tinder date once with a guy down the street from my house. I always send my roommates the address and had location services on for my phone, but it was still so dumb. The guy kept telling me about how much he loved his dog and asked me if I wanted to go over there to meet the dog. After talking for a few days, I decided to go over there. It's a huge house with a boat out front, and he comes running outside to tell me to park diagonally next to the boat. There's maybe an inch of room on either side. That wasn't weird at first, but in retrospect, I think he just didn't want me to make a quick getaway. He didn't know I lived within walking or running distance. The guy answers the door in his boxers, which is creepy, but my dumbass goes inside anyway. To a house with almost no furniture. I think there are 2 futons only in the house. No exaggeration. After talking for a while, I found out he's pre-med, and he's already categorized me as having low self-esteem and probably a traumatic childhood. Nail on the head. And I start thinking, where is his dog? He kept asking me if anyone was expecting me later tonight, or if anyone knew where I was, and I started clutching my keys between my fingers, like you do in parking lots at night. The questions are getting weirder and weirder. He wants to know my blood type. Where's my family from? Who do I live with? Finally, I asked him, "Where's your dog?" He just smiles and continues with his questions. At this point, I don't know if he wants to kill me or is trying to steal my kidney. I just know that I want to leave. I make up an excuse to leave, and he insists on walking me to the door, tries to kiss me, and gets rejected. He keeps nervously checking his phone and telling me to stay, just 5 more minutes. I somehow manage to back out in seconds. Don't ask me how. I had only been driving around a year and was shit at reversing. He left a voicemail the next day, asking me to go on a motorcycle ride into the mountains, where there's no service, and I never replied. The really scary part is that 2 weeks later, 5 cars were driving down his street. I don't remember seeing him move, but the house sat empty for a long time after that. I never had the heart to try to look up what happened there. My friend told me this horrific story yesterday, and it has to be the scariest thing I ever heard, so I felt like sharing it to remind everyone to stay safe and cautious. This happened to a friend of our friend not too long ago. So this girl matched with a guy on Tinder and went on a couple of dates with him. On the first 2 dates, they went for coffee on walks outside. She really liked him, thought he was friendly, good looking, etc., and thought they clicked. For the 3rd date, the guy suggested she should come over to his place to have some wine. She agreed because she felt safe and comfortable enough to do so at this point. So the time comes, and she goes over to his place, and he pours her a glass of wine. Things seem to go well. They joke around and enjoy a nice talk. After a while, she starts feeling funny. Now, luckily, this girl had already been roofied once before, so she immediately recognized the effects once they kicked in. She was extremely clever in this situation and pretended she was feeling fine. She told him as cheerfully and energetically as possible that she was quickly going to use the toilet, as to seem like nothing was off. Once she was in the toilet, she locked the door and immediately called the police. She told them she was drugged, locked in the toilet, and that they needed to come get her out of there. Pretty soon, after she passes out, she awakes by the police, but is still very drugged, so kind of slides in and out of consciousness. All she remembers is the police putting a bag over her head as they carry her out of there. She was saved. A few days later, she's asked to come down to the police station to give her declaration of events. After doing this, she asks whether she remembers the police putting a bag over her head correctly, or if it was imagined due to the drugs, or what was up with that. They tell her that they indeed put a bag over her head because they decided it would have been too traumatizing to see as they carried her out of there what he had prepared and set up for her in the living room. This sends shivers down my spine. The guy ended up in jail, and to this day she doesn't know what he had had in mind for her. But it's clear this was a very messed up, incredibly scary situation that could have ended horribly. Please, 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 always let someone know when you plan on going on a Tinder date, even if you feel safe, even if it's not your first date. Always ask a friend to call and check up on you during and after to let someone know you're safe. I was a freshman in college and very sheltered. I'd never had a boyfriend before and hadn't even kissed a boy yet. Tired of being the virgin in my friends group, I decided to put myself out there and start going on Tinder dates. I matched with this guy, and we chatted for a week before deciding to meet up. He seemed nice enough. We met for dinner and a movie. Nothing spectacular. It actually was very unimpressive because I hardly remember anything from this part of the date. After the movie, things took a turn for the worse. It was past 11, and he was supposed to be driving me home. It took me several minutes to realize I had no idea where we were. It was dark, and we were on a gravel road surrounded by farmland. I asked him where we were going, and he said he was taking back roads. I'm creeped out and just want to go home. I said I was tired and asked how far we were. He said not far, and if I would mind him turning on his police scanner, starting to freak out a bit. By now, I'm just like, okay, this boy is weird, but I'm okay. He stops his truck on this gravel road in the middle of nowhere and turns off his headlights. He then proceeds to ask me, "So what do you want to do now?" Realizing I'm at the complete mercy of this dude, all I can whimper out is, "Go home." I'm panicking. I grab my phone out of my purse and pretend my mom is calling me. I make a point to fake, tell her I'm on a date with this guy, made sure to use his name, and I should be home in a couple of minutes. He took me home. I've no idea if I overreacted in that situation, but I have no regrets for getting the fuck out of there. Fast forward 4 years, and I actually met my current boyfriend on Tinder. We've been dating for a year and a half and are extremely happy. The good ones are out there. You just have to weed through all the other ones first. I was 21, recently became a police officer, and was also recently dumped. So my friend suggested Tinder. At 21, fresh into my law enforcement career, I felt invincible, ready to tackle anything. I matched with a very good-looking female. We chatted, and eventually set up a date to meet. She said she had a great open field to look at stars and hang out, and we could meet up at her house. So the night came. I was excited, and she seemed to be excited, and I picked her up. She guided me to the field, and it looked nice. Open space, woods, deer, and other wildlife. In the field, I noticed really dim headlights in the distance. Then, the van started driving towards us and pulled up in front of us, almost close enough to block me from going forward. I told her to stay in the car, and I'll go say hi. I grabbed the flashlight I had in the car and walked up. In the front driver's side of the van, there was a decently sized man. I asked him what was going on, and if he could back his car up a little bit. He was very polite, said he was the owner of the property, and said he didn't mean to scare us. He told me he's been having trouble with poachers on his property, and just wanted to make sure we weren't going to be shooting at anything. I assured him we only came out to look at some stars and wildlife. He was perfectly okay with that, told me to have a nice date, and drove away. After that, the girl was texting non-stop. Around an hour later, I saw headlights coming towards us again, this time at a really fast pace. We hopped in the car, and I moved it to a more defensive position. The same man came close enough to almost hit my car. She hopped out of the car at that point and ran towards the guy. I immediately knew I was fucked. I got out and gave them commands to back up and get on the ground. Neither of them complied, obviously. He then proceeded to charge me and knock me to the ground. Luckily, I was able to get him on his back and get up. I saw my date grab a metal pipe from the van. She told me they had a gun and to give them my money and truck, and I won't get hurt. Of course, with my invincible mentality, I said no. She started to cry and said they didn't want to hurt me. He then started to go back towards the car. At that point, I told them I was a cop, drew my concealed firearm, and lay on the ground. After a moment of shock from all of us, they complied. I was able to call 911 and tell them my name and badge number. I had two at gunpoint and needed backup immediately. I gave our dispatcher the best directions I could to this field. While on the phone, they both fled. Again, stupid new cop, young guy mentality. I chased them. I took off after the man and ran into the woods around the field. I chased him for maybe 30 seconds, heard 3 loud pops, and saw muzzle flash. I went right out the window. I ran like hell back towards my car and peeled the hell out. I went back to the area I picked her up in, called dispatch again, and had officers come to that location. Of course, the first officers to pull up were my sergeant and my field training officer. Of course, they were both completely understanding and didn't give me any shit about it at all. The most used words were dumbass and stupid fucking rookie. I hopped in their car and went towards the field. Luckily, the van was still there. I was told to shut my mouth and only come out if they start getting shot at. They cleared the area and started looking in the van. They found meth right on the center console and searched the car. What scared me the most was when my field training officer and sergeant came back to the patrol car, let me out, and told me to come look in the back of the van. Both of them were pale and looked horrified. I went to the back of the van, where there were several knives, duct tape, lighter fluid, a decent amount of rifle ammunition, handcuffs, and what looked to be dried blood. On the front seat passenger side, we found an AR-15 style rifle and 2 more handguns. We called for immediate backup and detectives. When they investigated the blood, it turned out it wasn't blood. The plates had been stolen. The van was reported stolen. I still get shit about the whole encounter, but luckily no one got hurt. I will never use online dating again. Ever.